Hello students. Today's first question is, what is the area of rectangular region R? So there is a rectangle, so we need to find the area of this. Let us suppose this rectangle is ABCD. So we need to find the area of rectangle ABCD. Now nothing else has been given in the main statement. Now moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells us each diagonal of R has length 5. So this means that AC is equal to BD is equal to 5. So I will join the diagonals. So both have length equal to 5. Now let us suppose that the length of the rectangle is L and the width is B. So area will become length into breadth. Now AC has been given us to 5. So by applying Pythagoras theorem in triangle ABC, I can have AC square is equal to L square plus B square, or I can write L square plus B square on the left hand side, and AC is 5, so AC square is 25. Right? Now I can have different values for L and B so as to get the sum 25. For example, let us suppose L is equal to root of 5 and B to be equal to root of 20. So when I will square it, this will become 5 plus 20, so 25. Another scenario can be where length can be root 15 and breadth be root 10. So this will also give me a sum of 25 when their squares are added. So I can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer my question. Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells us that the perimeter of R is 15. So perimeter means twice of length plus breadth equal to 14. This implies length plus breadth is equal to 7. Now there can be more than one options for this. Let us suppose length is 2 and breadth is 5. So this adds up to give me 7. So in this case area will be equal to 10 square units. Fine. Or if I write length to be equal to 3, breadth equal to 4. So this also adds up to 7, giving me an area of 12 square units. So this means that statement B is also not sufficient to answer my question. So which means further that statement D is also not an option for this question. Now we are left with statement C and E. First we will check for statement E, that combines statements 1 and 2. So now statement 1 says L square plus B square is equal to 25, and statement 2 says L plus B is equal to 7. Right? Now if I square this, I will be getting, squaring both sides of this, I will be getting L square plus B square plus twice LB equal to 49. Right? Because this is A plus B whole square. So this is equal to A square plus B square plus 2AB. Now I can put the value of L square plus B square equal to 25. So I will be getting twice LB, shifting the value of L square plus B square equal to 25 to right side. So this will be 49 minus 25. So that will be 24, which implies that LB is equal to 12. Right? Now I've got 3. Now LB is equal to 12. So this is the area which I need to find, and this is equal to 12 square units. And statement C is giving me a unique value of L multiplied by B. So that means statement C is sufficient to answer my question. How many integers n are there such that n is greater than? So first of all, we have been given that n is an integer. Right? We have to find how many integers lie between when n is greater than r and less than s. So basically we need to find r and s, and we have not been given that whether these are integers r and s or not integers. Right? We need to find this basically. Right? With this information, moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells us that s minus r is equal to 5. Now we will take both the case integers as well as not in. Let us suppose s and r are integers. First will be the case when s and r we consider as integer. Now let us suppose the value of s to be 9. In that case, r has to be s. If s is 9, r has to be equal to 4. Right? Because s minus r has to be equal to 5. Now how many integers are lying in between? So that will be the value of n. How many integers? N. So that will be 5 also. 5, 6, 7, 8. So basically the value of n is equal to 4. Now we'll consider the case when n is not n, when r and s are not integers. So let us suppose again we have to maintain the difference to be 5. So let us suppose s to be 10.5. In that case, r has to be 5.5, making the difference s minus r equal to 10.5 minus 5.5 equal to 5. Now in this case, the integers are in between r and s will be 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So that means the value of n is 5. When I consider n equal to n as integers, I get the value of n equal to 4. So I can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer my question. Moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that r and s are not integers. So r and s are not integers. Now in that case, I can have different values for this. Let us suppose r is equal to 0.4 and s is equal to 0.5. right? In that case, the value of n will be equal to 0 as there is no integer in between 0.4 and 0.5. Or I can have r equal to 6.5 and s equal to 4.5. In that case, the value of n will be 5 and 6. There will be 2, namely 5 and 6. So the value of n is coming out different. So I can say that statement B is also not sufficient to answer my question. Now with this option, I can cancel out the option D also. So now I will check for option C and then for option E. If option C is also not valid, combining statements 1 and 2. So this says S minus R is equal to 5. And R and S are not integers from second statement. So first I can take this case also, which I have taken statement 1. There R and S are not integers and the value of n is coming out to be 5. Now I will check it for some other value where these are not integers and the difference is equal to 5 to make sure that the value of n is coming out unique as 5. So let us suppose S to be equal to 16.5. So R will be equal to 11.5. Right? Now number of integers will be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So again n is coming out to be 5 and which is a unique value. So I can say for this question statement C is the right option because combining both the statements I can figure out the value of n which is 5 in this case. If the total price of n equally priced shares of a certain stock was 12,000, what was the price per share of the stock? So basically there are n equally priced shares. So this has been given as a number. So the number of equally priced shares, right? So that is n. Now let us suppose price per share be $P. Price per share, right? Now since there are n equally priced shares at a price of P per share, so it has been given that of a certain stock was 12,000. What was the price per share? We need to find basically P, right? Now P multiplied by n is equal to 12,000, right? This has been given to us. So for finding P, we need to find 12,000 divided by n, or in other words we can say that we need to find the value of n. If n is available to us, 12,000 divided by n will give us the value of price per share of the stock. Now with this information, moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells us that if the price per share of the stock had been $1 more, the total price of n shares would have been $300 more. So what does that mean? Basically that means price per share is $P. Now it has been increased to P plus 1. So n remaining same, so that will equal to n into P plus 1 is equal to, he says that the total price would be $3,000 more. So that means 12,000 plus 300. So that will be equal to 12,300. Or I can write NP plus n equal to 12,300. This implies, now we know that NP is equal to 12,000. So I can write 12,000 plus n equal to 12,300, or I can write n is equal to 300. So with this I can find the value. So I can say that statement A is sufficient to answer my question. If you want, for the sake of question, I can find the value also. 12,000 divided by 300. So this gets cancelled. So this will be 40 shares. 40 is the price of per share. $40 per share. Right? Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that if the price of the stock had been $2 less, now the case is then the price per share will be P minus 2. The total price of the n shares would have been 5% less. So 5% off we have to cancel from this. So basically that means 95% would be left the price of the share. So that will be 95 by 100 into 12,000. So this is basically, so 95 into 120. So this comes out to be 95 into 120, 11,400. So now the price of the share is this when the price per share is reduced by $2. So that means n multiplied by P minus 2 is equal to 11,400. Now again NP minus 2n equal to 11,400. Now NP is 12,000. So I can write 12,000 minus twice of n equal to 11,400. Right? Now from this I can deduce that 2n is equal to 12,000 minus 11,400, which is 600. This implies n is equal to 300. So I'm again able to get the value of n equal to 300. So we can calculate which the price per share from this also. So I can say that statement B is also sufficient to answer this question. In the scenarios where both the statements are individually sufficient to answer the question, so I'll mark the option D, that both the statements alone are sufficient to. So right option for this will be option D. If n is positive, so we have been given that n is positive, is root of n greater than 100. So what does that basically mean? If I scale both sides, I would be getting n greater than 100 square. this implies we have to find that is n, the value of n is greater than 10,000. Right? Now, with this information, we'll move to the statement 1. Now, statement 1 tells me that under root of n minus 1 is greater than 99. Now, but if I scare it, this means scaring both sides, n minus 1 is greater than 99 multiplied by 99. Right? Now, if I need to calculate 99 multiplied by 99, I would write 99 multiplied by 100 minus 1. So this will be 9900 minus 99, which is equal to 9801. So that means n minus 1 is greater than 9801. Or in other words, I can say transposing minus 1 to other sides, I will get n greater than 980. Now, the question was basically to find whether n is having value greater than 10,000. Here it comes out n is greater than 9820, 9802. So n can have value 9803, 9809. Right? Or it can also have value 11,000. So in this case, root of n will not be greater than 100, and in this case, root of n will be greater than 100. Right? So we are getting may or may not be situation. So we can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer our question. Now, moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that under root of n plus 1 is greater than 101. So again, scaring, I would be getting n plus 1 greater than 101 multiplied by 101. Now if I solve 101 plus 101, so this will be 101 plus 100 plus 1. 100 multiplied by 101 multiplied by 100 will be 10100 plus 101. So this will be equal to 10201. So basically this says that the value of n plus 1 is greater than 10,201. Or I can write that the value of n is greater than 10,200. Right? We need to determine whether n is greater than 10,000, and here it is having value greater than 10,200. So we can say that the statement B is sufficient to answer the question that the root of n is definitely greater than 100. So we can say surely yes for this. So for this question, statement B is sufficient and statement B is the right option. That statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Is x multiplied by y greater than 5? So this is a simple question. Is x y greater than 5? We need to answer this question in concrete yes or no. Now moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that the value of x is greater than equal to 1 and less than equal to 3, and the value of y is greater than equal to 2 and less than equal to 4. So for this information, I can say that x can take values between 1 and 3. In integer form, it can take value 1 to 3 and y can take value 2, 3, 4. We need to find whether x into y is greater than 5. Now, if I take x equal to 1 and y equal to 2, then xy will be having value equal to 2. So I can say that xy is less than 5. Right? If I take the value of x equal to 2 and the value of y equal to 3, in that case the product will come out equal to 6, and I can surely say that xy is greater than 5. So I am getting may or may not be situation over here. So I can say that statement 1 is not sufficient to answer my question. Now, moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that x plus y is equal to 5. Right? So if x plus y is equal to 5, now I can take different values for x and y. Now let us suppose if I take the value of x equal to, now this condition is only in statement 1. Now for this we have to think independently. So if I take the value of x equal to 2 and the value of y equal to 3, in that case xy will be equal to 6, which is greater than 5. So I can say yes for this. But if I take the value of x equal to 1 and the value of y equal to 4, again x plus y is equal to 5. So we have to abide by this condition given in statement 2. But the product of x into y is equal to 4, which is less than y. So we are getting the value greater than as well as less than by the statement 2. So we can say that statement B is also alone not sufficient to answer the question, which marks further that statement D is also not the option for this. Now we'll move with the option C. Now combining statements 1 and 2, where we have been given the limit of x and limit of y. So again, x plus y, there can be different options for x plus y equal to 5 given the conditions of limiting values of x and y. So it can be 1 plus 4, which we have studied over here, so that is less than 5, or I can have the value here 2 and 3, which also falls in this category. So we would be having same conditions, and here it would be greater than 5 and here it would be less than 5. So I can say that statement C is also not sufficient to answer my question. So for this question, we will say that both the statements are not sufficient to answer the question, and the right option will be option number E. In year X, 8.7% of the men in the labor force were unemployed in June, compared with 8.4% in May. So we have been given that in year X, 8.7% of men in labor force were unemployed in June and 8.4% were unemployed in May. Right? If the number of men in the labor force was same for both months, so let us suppose that number to be T, total number of men in labor force. Right? How many men were unemployed in June of that year? So we need to find basically the value of how many men were. So we need to find basically 8.7% of T, sorry, capital T. So we can find it only when we are able to find the value of T, the total number of men in the labor force. Now with this information we'll move to statement. This is the unemployed data. Okay? Now moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that in May of year X, the number of unemployed men in the labor force was 3.36 million. So what does that basically means? That has been given that in in the month of May of year X, 8.4% is the unemployed percentage. So 8.4% of T is basically equal to 3.36 million. Right? So that is equal to 3360 unit, tens, 100,000, 10,000, lakh, 10 lakh. Right? So from this I can find the value of T, and further I can find 8.7% of T. So I can say that T can be known from this. We need not to calculate the value in statement based question. So we can say that statement A is sufficient to answer my question. Fine. Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells that in year X, 1,20,000 more men in the labor force were unemployed in June than in May. So what does that mean? That means since the percentage June is greater than the May, so this more percentage is basically equal to these more men which were unemployed in June. So that basically means that 8.7% minus 8.4% of T is equal to 1,20,000. So this basically means 0.3% of T is equal to 1,20,000. Right? From this data also I can calculate the value of T. T can be known from this. So I will say that statement B is also sufficient to answer this question. So in the scenario where both the statements alone are sufficient to answer the question, I will mark the option D, that both the statements are individually sufficient to answer the question. If x is not equal to 0, x is not equal to 0, we need to find the value of x raised to power p upon x raised to power q whole raised to power 4. Right? So basically using the laws of exponents, since the bases are same over here, I can write x raised to power p minus q whole raised to power 4. We need to calculate the value of this. Right? Now with this information we will move to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that p is equal to q. Now if p is equal to q, I can write x raised to power p minus p, substituting q for p whole raised to power 4. Now p minus p is equal to 0. This implies x raised to power 0 whole raised to power 4. So anything, you must write this into your notes, that anything raised to power 0 raised to power 0 is 1. Right? So x raised to power 0 will become 1. So this will be 1 raised to power 1, which is equal to 1. And this is a unique value for this. So we can say that statement A, statement first, is sufficient to answer the question. Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that x is equal to 3. So this changes to 3 raised to power p minus q whole raised to power 4. Now since I don't know nothing about p as well as q, so I can't further determine the value of this whole expression. So I can say that statement B is not sufficient to answer my question. So for this question I will say that statement A alone, statement first alone, is sufficient to answer the question. So right option will be option A. On Monday morning, a certain machine ran continuously at a uniform rate to fill a production order. At what time did it completely fill the order that morning? So a certain machine ran continuously at a uniform rate to fill a production order. We need to find when did that machine complete the order. Nothing information else has been given about this. So we will directly jump to the statement. Now moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that the machine began filling the order at 9:30 a.m. So machine started filling the order at 9:30 a.m. So this doesn't give any information about at what time it completed the order. So I can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer my question. Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that machine had filled 1/2 of the order by 10:30 a.m. and 5/6 of the order by 11:10 a.m. Now if 1/2 of the order has been filled up to 10:30 a.m. and 5/6 of the order, so let us suppose that we order filled by 11:10 a.m. Right? Now between 10:30 and 11:10 we have 40 minutes, right? And in 40 minutes we can find how much it completed the order. So that will be 1/2 minus 5 by 6. So that is basically equal to taking 6 as LCM. So this will be equal to 6 divided by 2, 3. So this will be 3 minus 5. So that will be equal to, sorry, since this is the more order, so I will have to write 5 by 6 minus 1 by 2. So that will be equal to 6, 5 minus 3. So that is equal to 2 by 6 or 1 by 3 of the order. So that means 1 by 3 of the order has been completed in 40 minutes. Right? Now, since 1 by 3 of the order got completed in 40 minutes, the whole order would be completed in, if I say 1 by 3 of the work is completed in 40 minutes. So total work will be completed in 40 into 3 minutes. So that will be equal to 120 minutes, or I can say 2 hours. Right? Now, since 1 by 2 of the order got completed in 10:30 am and it took only 2 hours. So half of this will be 1 hour. So that work started at 9:30 am. Right? Because the total job took 2 hours and half of that job was completed up to 10:30 am. So that means if we go 1 hour back, so it would have started at 9:30 am and it will go up to 11:30 am. Right? So now we are getting the time when the machine completed the order. So we can say that statement B is sufficient to answer my question. Right? What is the radius of the circle above with center O? So we have been given a figure in which we need to find the radius. So first of all, we will draw that circle, right, with center O. So this is the center O. Here it is a chord AB and OQB. Right? So if I draw this OA and OB, so this is OA equal to OB is the radius. Let us suppose that to be capital R. Right? So we need to find the value of OA or AB. Now, nothing else has been given to us, so we'll directly move to statement 1. Right? Now, statement 1 tells me that the ratio of OP to OPQ is 1:2. So OP to PQ is, ratio of OP to PQ is 1/2. Sorry, I forgot to write one more radius, that is OQ. OQ is also the radius. Right? Now, OP divided by PQ is equal to 1/2. So this basically means that radius is OQ. So I can write OQ equal to OP plus PQ. Right? Or I can write this as OP is 1 and this is 2. Right? This is in terms of ratio. Right? So PQ is, I can write this as PQ equal to twice of OP. So this is OP is 1 and this is twice of OP. So this is OP. So I can say that the radius is equal to 3 times, radius is 3 times PO. Right? 3 times PO is the radius. Nothing else has been given to us, so I can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer my question. Now moving to statement 2. P is the midpoint of the chord B. Now P is the midpoint of chord B, so this basically tells me that AP is equal to PB. Now with this information I can't calculate the radius because in this chord basically this OP bisects AB. So statement B is also not sufficient to answer my question. With this we can say that statement D is also not sufficient. So we'll move to statement C, combining statement 1 and 2. Now statement 1 tells me that radius is equal to thrice times PO, but we don't know the value of PO. And second statement tells me AP is equal to PB. Still we are not able to calculate the radius, so we will say statement C is also not sufficient, and I will mark option E, that both statements are still not sufficient to answer my question. If A and B are positive integers, so we have been given that A and B are, A comma B are positive integer. What is the value of product AB? So we need to find the value of A into B. Now moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that the least common multiple of A and B is 48. So LCM of A comma B is 48. Now if I suppose A to be 24 and B to be 16, so in this case LCM will be equal to 48 and the product AB will be equal to 24 multiplied by 16. Right? Now we have to find another scenario in which the LCM is 48. So now let us suppose A to be 48 and B equal to 16. In that case also LCM would be equal to, LCM of these will be equal to 48. Right? But the product A dot B is equal to 48 into 16, whereas the product over here is 24 into 16. We need not to calculate the values. So I can say that statement A alone is not sufficient to answer my question. Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that the greatest common factor GCF of A and B is 4, or we say it HCF, we can say HCF or GCF of A comma B is equal to 4. So if I suppose A to be 4 and B to be 4, in that case the GCF of A and B would be equal to 4 and the product will be equal to A dot B equal to 4.4. Right? Now if I suppose A to be equal to 16 and B equal to 4, In that case too, the GCF would be equal to of A and B will be equal to 4, but the product changes to 16.4. So we can say that statement B is also not sufficient to answer my question. Right? Now this says that option D is also out of question. Now we will solve for statements C, which says combining statement 1 and 2. Now if I combine statement 1 and 2, I would be getting LCM of A and B equal to 48 and HCF of A and B equal to 4. Now we know that product of two numbers, you must remember this, product of two numbers A and B, let us suppose these numbers are A and B, so product is AB is always equal to LCM into HCF of these two numbers, right? So in this case LCM has been given us to us as 48 and HCF as 4, so AB will be equal to 48 multiplied by 4. You must write this into your notes that product of two numbers is equal to LCM into HCF of these two numbers. So AB comes out to be 192. So this is a single unique value for product AB. So we can say that statement C is sufficient to answer my question. So the right option for this will be statement C, that both the statements combined are sufficient to answer my question. What is the number of 360-degree rotations that a bicycle wheel made while rolling 100 meters in a straight line without slipping? Right? So one 360-degree revolution will be equal to its circumference. Let us suppose the radius be r, so that will be equal to circumference, or it will be equal to pi d, where r is radius and d is the dia of the bicycle wheel. Right? So for rolling 100 meters, I would just multiply it by while rolling 100 meters. So that means 100 divided by this circumference will give me the total number of 360-degree revolutions. So basically I need to find the circumference. For this, either the value of r or the value of d would be sufficient to find this. Then I can calculate the number of revolutions. Right? How it is possible? So let us suppose this is a circle. When I flatten it, it would give me a length in terms of 2 pi r. Right? For traveling 100 revolutions, I would divide it by circumference. Now, this information, moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me the diameter of the bicycle wheel, including the tire, is 0.5 meters. So basically I can find pi into d equal to 0.5 pi. So now I can calculate the total number of revolutions. So I will say that statement A is sufficient to answer my question. Right? Now moving to statement 2, it would come around 63 revolutions if you calculate this. Right? Now second statement tells me the wheel made 360-degree rotations per minute. So now this doesn't give me any information regarding the radius, or because we don't know the dimensions of the wheel, so we will say that the statement D is not sufficient to answer my question. Right? So for this question we will say that statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer my question. In the equation x square plus bx plus 12 equal to 0. X is a variable and b is a constant. What is the value of b? So we have been given a quadratic equation, degree 2 equation, x square plus bx equal to 12 equal to 0. And x is a variable and b is a constant. And we need to find the value of b. Right? Now, with this information, we will move to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me that x minus 3 is a factor of x square plus bx plus 12. Now, since x minus 3 is a factor of x square plus bx plus 12. So what does the word factor means in an algebraic expression? So that basically means that by putting the value of that, now x minus 3 is the factor. So we will put the value by equating this equal to 0. So the value of x equal to 3. So this basically means that the value of x equal to 3, when I put this value into this whole equation, whole polynomial will change into 0. So that means basically at x equal to 3, x square plus bx plus 12 should be equal to 0. So that means 3 square plus thrice b plus 12 equal to 0. Or I can say 9 plus 3b plus 12 equal to 0. Thrice b plus 21 equal to 0. Thrice b is equal to minus of 21. This implies b is equal to minus 7. Right? So we can say that statement A is sufficient to answer my question. Right? Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that 4 is a root of the equation x square plus bx plus 12 equal to 0. So root basically means that by putting the value of this as x over here, the equation reduces to 0. So we say 4 is a root or 0 of this equation. So by putting this value 4 square plus 4b plus 12 equal to 0. So this is basically 16 plus 4b plus plus 12 equal to 0, or I can say over here 4b plus 28 equal to 0. This implies 4b is equal to minus 28, or I can say b is equal to minus 7. So again I am getting the value, unique value of b. So I can say that statement b is also alone sufficient to answer the question. So since both the statements alone are sufficient to answer the question, so I will mark the option D, that both the statements are sufficient to answer my question. In the figure above, line segment OP has slope 1 by 2 and line segment PQ has slope 2. What is the slope of line segment OQ? So first of all, we will draw the figure. So this is x-axis, y-axis, from origin P, from here Q, and this is OQ. We need to find the slope of OQ. Let us suppose the coordinates of PB, A, comma B. Right? Now we have been given that the slope of line OP, now origin has the coordinates 0, 0, is 1 by 2. Now we know that slope, let us suppose slope to be m for m of OP. So that will be equal to the difference of y coordinates in the numerator and difference of x coordinates in the denominator. So that will be equal to b minus 0 divided by a minus 0. Right? So this must be equal to 1 by 2. So, or I can say that b by a is equal to 1 by 2. This implies a is equal to twice of b. So whatever is the value of a, let us suppose a is 2, then b will be 4. Right? Now further, we have been given that the slope of line PQ. So let us suppose the coordinates of M are a1, b1. Right? Now slope of PQ has been given to us as 2. So that basically means b1 minus b upon a1 minus a to be equal to 2. Or I can say that b1 minus b is equal to twice of a1 minus a. Right? Now with this information, moving to statement 1. Statement 1 tells me line segment OP has length 2 root 5. So line segment OP has length equal to 2 root 5. Now by using the distance formula, I can calculate the length in terms of coordinates. So what does this says? This says that under root of difference of x coordinate, that means a minus 0 whole square plus b minus 0 whole square should be equal to 2 root 5 whole square. Right? Or I can say that a square plus b square under root of a square plus b square is equal to 4 into 5, 20. Right? Sorry, not square. Squaring both sides, I will get this is 2 root 5. Right? So squaring both sides, I will be getting a square plus b square is equal to 20. Now we have established over here that a is equal to twice of b. So putting this value over here, I will be getting a square which is equal to twice b. So twice b whole square plus b square equal to 20. This implies 4b square plus b square is equal to 5b square is equal to 20. So this implies b square is equal to 20 by 5 equal to 4, which means b is equal to 2. Now if b is equal to 2, then a will be equal to 4. So basically the coordinates of p becomes 4, 2. Right? Now since coordinates of this have been given to us, but from this we can't calculate the coordinates of q. Right? And we don't know how much far is q from p. Right? Basically what we need to find is the slope of MOQ. We need to find this. Right? So coordinates of p have been given to us, have been provided to us by the statement 1. But we are not able to find the coordinates of q. So we can say that statement A is not sufficient to answer our question, although it gives us the coordinate of p to be 4, 2. Right? Now moving to statement 2. Statement 2 tells me that the coordinates of point Q are 5, 4. So now coordinates of point Q are 5, 4. Right? Now OQ is a line segment. We need to find the slope of this. So I can use again this method. So slope of OQ would be equal to 4 minus 0 divided by 5 minus 0. Y coordinate, that is 5, 4. First y coordinate, y minus 0, and then 5 minus 0. So this is basically equal to 4 by 5. So we are now able to calculate the slope of line segment OQ. So we can say that statement B is sufficient to answer my question alone. Right? So for this particular question, we will say that the statement B is alone sufficient to answer my question, and we will mark the option B. Right? So thank you for today's lecture. Bye bye. Take care.